Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mini Books Podcast with your host, Gloria and Rogan. And today we are excited to dive into Special Book with You. We picked this one because it has really important lessons to share, and we can't wait to talk about them. So let's get started.
Welcome to a deep dive into something I know you're going to love.
Oh, yeah.
Body language.
Okay, always fun.
We are going deep into I Can Read You Like a Book
I like that title.
by Gregory Hartley and Marianne Corinch. We are going to figure out how to read between the lines
Right.
of expressions and gestures and all of that good stuff.
Awesome.
But, we all know that a furrowed brow, that means somebody's confused or
Right.
their arms are crossed, they're closed off.
Yeah.
But how often do we get those signals crossed?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like you can't just take one signal
Right.
and assume you know what's going on.
Exactly.
It's all about the bigger picture.
So let's unpack one of the things actually that Hollywood always gets wrong.
Oh, tell me.
Like, it's in all the movies and TV shows. That whole, if you look up and to the right,
Oh, you're lying.
you're lying.
Like, how many times have we seen that?
Oh, 1,000 times.
Especially in those, like, police interrogation scenes, right?
Yes. Like in basic.
Oh, classic. But in reality, it's way more complicated than that.
Of course.
You know, someone's eyes could be darting around for a million reasons.
Okay.
It could be they're nervous. Maybe they're trying to remember something.
Right,
Doesn't
right.
necessarily mean they're spinning a lie.
So how do we not fall into that trap? Like just seeing one little eye movement
Right.
and then making a judgment call
Exactly.
based on nothing.
You have to look at everything else that's going on, the context.
Context.
It's super important. In fact, there's this great example in the book. I Can Read You Like a Book. Imagine you're in a classroom, right? And a student gets called out in front of everyone
Yeah, no.
to talk about a time they were embarrassed.
Oh, that's the worst.
Right. What are they going to do? Probably blush, fidget,
Wow.
avoid eye contact.
For sure.
Classic signs of embarrassment, right? But what if you saw those same signs somewhere else
Okay.
without knowing the context?
Right.
You might think, oh, they're being deceptive or they're scared of something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you got to be careful, right?
So it's like reading a sentence, but you're only reading one word.
Exactly.
And you're like, I know exactly what this means.
You're missing the whole story.
What other factors come into play besides context?
Oh, you can't forget about culture.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Huge.
Yeah.
Because what might be polite in one culture, right?
Could be totally off-putting in another.
I am so interested in those moments
Oh, yeah.
where cultures clash just from something so simple.
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do we get it so wrong sometimes?
Yeah.
And it's easy to misinterpret things, right? It's like with cultures, you've got this whole spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
You got your super typical behaviors. Those are like universal.
Okay.
And then you've got your typical, which are more like common within a specific culture.
Right.
And then subtypical, those are unique to an individual.
Interesting. So someone's background can really affect how their body language comes across.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Think about like how some Texans are perceived. Their heritage is full of cowboys, oil barons, these larger than life figures.
Right. And that history, it kind of translates into a more direct style of communication,
Right. Which some people might take the wrong way
Exactly. Some might see it as too loud or too brash.
because it's such a different style.
Exactly. And they don't mean anything by it. It's just, their background.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like their body language is a reflection of their history.
In a way, yeah. And it just goes to show, how often we probably misunderstand each other
Right.
without even realizing it.
It's like, what am I doing that people from other places or other backgrounds are misinterpreting?
Right. It makes you think.
Totally.
Cool.
And it's not just culture either.
Right.
What about gender?
Oh, huge one. Men and women.
Yeah.
We can have the same intention, but our body language,
Yeah.
it's like a whole different language.
Right. Tell me about that. Like space, expressing emotions, it all seems so different.
Oh, yeah. It's fascinating.
Like, what's the science behind it? So is it just culture? Or are men and women just hardwired differently?
It's both, really. It's amazing. Like the
Okay.
book talks about how biology plays a role too. Like,
Yeah.
what do you notice? Women usually less likely to take physical risks.
Yeah. I mean, that tracks, I guess. Why
Yeah.
do you think that is?
Hartley thinks it goes way back. It's like this instinct to protect their kids, nurturing, and that affects how they move even.
Wow. That's deep. Like we're carrying around all this history in our bodies.
Totally.
Okay. So We've got culture, gender, everyone's different. How do you actually read people accurately with all this going on?
That is where baselining comes in.
Okay, I've heard that word, but explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay, baselining. It can seriously up your body language game.
I'm listening.
So first, just observe, right? See how someone is normally their natural state. No judgment, just what's their posture like, gestures, tone of voice, all that.
So it's more about patterns.
Yes, exactly. You want to notice those little changes?
Okay.
Like, do they suddenly get fidgety or nervous? That tells you something's up.
Gotcha. So you're looking for when they shift from that baseline.
Exactly. That's when you get real insights.
That's so smart.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'm sure there are some don'ts, right? Like stuff to avoid while you're baselining.
Yeah, for sure. Biggest one. Check your biases at the door.
Oh, that's hard.
It's so easy to assume, right?
Yeah.
But you got to be neutral. See them clearly.
Like that saying, right? If you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras.
Exactly. Don't jump to conclusions. Oh, and another thing. Ask open-ended questions.
What do you mean?
Instead of like, do you like your job? Ask, tell me about work.
Oh, so they relax and you get a truer baseline.
Exactly. It makes sense, right?
This is great. Okay, so I think you've got baselining, but then how do you put it all together? Like actually interpret what it all means.
Okay, so you've got all these puzzle pieces now, right? The baseline, culture, gender, the whole context.
So much to remember.
And you got to consider it all, and then that's how you make the most accurate read on someone.
That's amazing, though. Like, you can really understand people so much better.
It really changes how you communicate, how you connect.
I bet. Okay, so we've learned a ton today.
We have.
Number 1, context is king.
100%.
One little gesture, it can mean a million things depending on the situation.
And who's doing it, right?
Right, exactly. Culture and gender, huge.
Sure.
And baselining, game changer.
So powerful.
So pay attention out there, everybody. Sometimes the most important things are said without a single word.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to dive into more book insights and key learnings, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Mini Books Podcast, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We're back every Sunday at 9 a.m. with new books and more to learn from. Until next time, take care, keep learning, and keep growing. Remember, this is Mini Books Podcast.